So I have been very passionate about not only exiting our current political system, but really trying to come up with and look at new models and new governance structures. And I actually gave a talk on this a year ago. I'm like, hey, we should really revisit all this from first principles. The US has been around for 250 years. If you look at either the original intent or the Constitution, clearly the US has gone way off course. And so, have we learned anything in 250 years? Would we approach this differently? And I tried to stimulate the group into having a conversation about, how we might start over or re-examine things from first principles. And nobody was interested. I was surprised because this was the kind of group that would be interested in it. But I've talked to some others. I did an episode on episode 12 from last year, the digital cage, that was really about, globalism and technocracy. In that episode, I had Mark Passio and Michael Rechtenwald on, and I thought that was a great episode. And it touched on what's going on and what we're facing with technocracy from both an exoteric perspective and then from an esoteric perspective. So that'll be an interesting one for you to review in light of tonight's episode. And then another one that I really enjoyed, I've spent a lot of time with Sterling Lujan, and saw him in Mexico a few weeks ago, and I'm going to see him a couple more times this year already that I know of. And he's really pioneering research in network states, and he's working on some really innovative solutions. There are these network states propping up all over the world where people are basically developing their own communities of interest and then developing their own governance models kind of from scratch. And so what Sterling is working on is some technologies that enable the creation of network states. And then he's also working on kind of a think tank, if you will, working on best practices to kind of share ideas. And so when you think about it, most governmental structures have been, they've been by force, or it's been kind of a feudal system. The US was really the first to kind of break away with kind of this constitutional form of government, but it hasn't been very scientific. There hasn't been a sharing of best practices or knowledge. And I think Sterling is right at the forefront of examining this and trying to come up with ways to support people who are experimenting with different governance models.